So, you may be asking yourselves, hey, dude, why do you have a laptop sitting there? Well, that's because I have my printer sitting off in the corner of this table. Yeah, it's a big mess of cards. I know. But yeah, I've got a printer sitting off in the corner because I don't have much other practical place to put it right this moment. But now I printed something off. What it is I downloaded a card maker program a while back and picked up some sticker paper at an office supply store. And I made a couple of proxy cards. Yes, there's a Winter Orb and a Plateau. The new card, well, the post-Mirrodin format card face. They look pretty nice. If you zoom really close in up on it, yeah, you can see how it's just, the colors aren't as vibrant as they might otherwise be because it's just printed on sticker paper, you know? Peeled off, trimmed a little bit, thrown on top of a land. Updated them so that they're more or less current rules wording. Added flavor text to Plateau. It's a snippet from the poem The Plateau by Claude McKay, who I'd never heard of before I started searching for poetry about plateaus. Winter Orb, which, when I put this together, the removal of Winter Orb's errata hadn't been done yet, and to be perfectly honest, I don't like the removal of that errata. Bastards. And I put fresh flavor text on it. Freeze, freeze, thou bitter sky. William Shakespeare. Blow, blow, but blow, blow, thou bitter wind. Yeah. I'd do a little bit of searching for that one. I wanted something a little bit more classic for that, you know? So anyways, problems today. I've got the Commander precons. Now, the presentation is pretty slick. I mean, got the nice box. Yeah, with the 3 oversized cards in it. That either any one of, they're all foil oversized cards, mind you. That's nice. Each one can be used as the commander in the deck that it came with. That's where the deck would be, right there, in that pocket. Inside the box, the deck came wrapped up. Inside you'll find your standard basics on playing Magic. That comes with fat packs and stuff like that. Each one comes with a nice rundown on the Commander format, talking about mentions that there are other precon decks for Commander format, a deck list for your deck, advice on how to play it, talking about some of the new legendary creatures in it and such. I really like this because it's got in the background of playing the deck, there's Newmont the Devastator. I have a Newmont EDH deck put together right now. I've actually been on the Wizard's message boards. I solicited some advice on how to improve his land destruction theme, and that was an interesting mix because you got some people like are trying to like suggest stuff that 2 different people suggested stuff that's already in the deck, and the only thing I can think of is, you know what, it's a 100 card list. Well, minus the lands. There's obviously a lot of repeats on the basic lands, but yeah, it's a 100 card deck list, and also it's just like, you know, I can understand missing something here or there. But then there was the fool. If you're reading this, yes, I called you a fool. I could say more choice words. Who suggested Armageddon because it's a classic land destruction. Tells me to trade for them. Now, obviously, this kid doesn't know who I am. There's no familiarity with my videos, etc., etc., etc. Because Geddons, it's like, really? I've got like extra playsets hanging around somewhere. Don't know exactly where. They're in one of those core set boxes, or probably spread across a couple of them. But it's like, yeah, I've got them. Coffee. And misspelled Armageddon and Classic. But on the other hand, he also managed to correctly spell Destruction and Annihilation. And I'm like, what is going on here? But he also recommended Terra Eternal to protect my lands from my global land destruction effects. And it's just like, dude, it says all lands are indestructible. You know what the word all means, right? Yeah. So anyway, the Commander precons. We got some, each deck has like 15 new cards in it. And, we got some really interesting stuff going on here. Zudru the Great-Hearted, it's a 2/4, it's 4 mana. Cost is that you can more or less get it out early. During your upkeep, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanents you own that your opponents control. And you can pump red, white, and blue into it for a donate effect. Your opponent gains control of a permanent you control. That's pretty nice. They each come with some interesting lands. Some new, some most not new. You'll see the Ravnica guild lands that provide 1 mana of each color of the guild when tapped. That comes into play tapped, and you bounce a land when it comes in. Yeah, you'll see those in pretty much all of these decks. You'll see a command tower. In each of these decks, you tap it for 1 mana of any color that your commander is. There's some good stuff in here. There's a lot of, especially to a less degree, all the decks have it, but the Political Puppets has like 3 of them. I want to say each of the other decks has at least 2. You have these enchantments that give bonuses to it's a creature enchantment that gives bonuses to. But I can speak English. I really can. Try this again. It's a creature enchantment that you can only play on an opponent's creature. And what happens at that point is, the enchanted creature gets some nice bonuses, but only if it attacks someone other than you. So it kind of encourages your opponents to attack each other. That's nice. I like it. What's actually kind of funny about the Political Puppets deck, of the alternate commanders for the deck, Ruhan of the Fomori. Where is he? He's hiding here somewhere. Ruhan of the Fomori. He's a 7/7 for 4 mana. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, choose an opponent at random, and Ruhan of the Fomori attacks that player this turn if able. He's a prime candidate for being donated with Zudru the Great-Hearted, so that's kind of funky. The other potential general in here, Numont the Devastator. He's a 6/6 flyer for 6 mana, and whenever he deals combat damage to an opponent, you can pay 2 colors and red. If you do, destroy 2 target lands. I'll be perfectly blunt, I'm not exactly sure why Numont's in this deck. He's pretty much the only dedicated land destruction card in here. And he's not completely land destruction dedicated anyway. For the most part, you're just going to swing with him. That or give him away to someone and say, hey, swing with this guy. Yeah, so that kind of boggles me a little bit. Also, this deck also doesn't have any cycling lands, which the other decks do. I'm not sure why that was done. Another thing I find interesting is each of these decks is based around what Wizards like to call the wedge color combination. That is 2 allied colors and their mutual enemy. So, for example, Political Puppets is white and blue and red. Mirror Mastery is red and green and blue. Devour for Power, blue, black, and green. Counterpunch, white, green, and black. Heavenly Inferno, black, red, and white. So that's kind of odd. I'm wondering if maybe when they first started putting these ideas together, they decided to use the Planar Chaos Dragons, the legendary dragons from Planar Chaos. Numont the Devastator, Varash the Hunter, I think, yeah. Varouche, however you want to pronounce it. Intet the Dreamer. Teneb the whatever the heck he is, and so forth and whatnot. Yeah, I know I'm missing one. So I'm wondering if maybe that was part of their original design, and then it just evolved from there. Planning meetings, etc., so forth and whatnot. And simply by inertia, they stayed in. Because I'll be blunt, Newmont doesn't really have a place in the political puppets deck. He really doesn't. Unless, of course, you want to give him away to someone who's running a land destruction theme. None of these decks really have a land destruction theme either. But oh well. I think they also maybe cross-seeded a few cards. In an effort to convince you to buy all of them. Just as a lovely example, in the Mirror Mastery deck, we have Homeward Path. It's a land, taps for a colorless. You can also tap it, and each player gains control of all creatures he or she controls. Now, I find that kind of interesting because you slide that, if you were to take that out of there and slide it into the Political Puppets deck, after you convince your opponent to attack everyone else, because Political Puppet has 3 cards to discourage several cards to discourage people from attacking you. It's got Propaganda, Ghostly Prison, and what the heck was that card? Windborne Muse, which is a 2/3 flyer that pretty much does the same thing as Propaganda and Ghostly Prison. That is, whenever an opponent tries to attack you, he has to pay 2 colors for each attacking creature. So anyways, yeah, so Political Puppets basically has a lot of stuff that just sits there and says, you want to attack somebody else. And you combine that with, if you were to combine that with that Homeward Path card, or Journey, or what the heck it was, I think it was Homeward Path. I'm not digging it back out again, damn it. But yeah, you combine it with that, and it's just like, okay, now that you guys have beaten the snot out of each other, I'll take all my dudes back, thank you. That's just mean. Now, then we go into like Mirror Mastery, and we've got, the vivid lands, which you don't see in Political Puppets. But you do see things like Rupture Spire, Temple of the False God, Storage Land and Fungal Reaches, Savage Twister. That's a fun master removal card. You've got a lot of land searching, a lot of stuff to beef your stuff, some deck manipulation. Garruk Wildspeaker. What I find interesting is this is the only one of the commander decks that I saw a Planeswalker in, which I find kind of odd. There's a lot of copy and recycle and card draw and such not effects in here, so it's kind of interesting. Legacy of the Vineyard I thought was an interesting inclusion. He's a fun card. I use him in my landless deck. But the Mirror Mastery deck just really doesn't do much for me. The Devour for Power deck. All sorts of fun stuff going on here. I mean, you've got some really nasty stuff in this deck too. I mean, you've got a Living Death. You've got a Rise from the Grave, an Unnerve, and a Siphon Mind. Buried Alive. I'm like, wow. This is a. This deck's got a lot of themes going on in it, but this is pretty much a little bit of discard, mostly mill, that is taking cards from deck, putting them straight into the graveyard, and reanimation. And that's some fun stuff going on there. I like it. It's kind of interesting. The Mimeoplasm's illustration reminds me of Beast Wars Megatron. It's like, yeah, he's got a T-Rex head for one of his hands. Why not? Why the hey not? Let's move this up to here. We've got Counterpunch deck. This is mostly a token creature deck. We've got some fun stuff here. Every one of these I opened up, I started looking at the lands first, you know, because your mana base is a nice thing to look at, but, you know, as I was going forward from the lands, I'm seeing things like Stormherd. Like, okay, make a crap ton of token creatures that fly. Death Mutation. Kill something, make token creatures. Hour of Reckoning, destroy all non-token creatures. And I'm like, I'm picking up a theme here. Hex, destroy up to 6 creatures. Bestial Menace, Creature Cone, yeah, 3/3, a 2/2, and a 1/1. It's like, wait a second. You know, Siphon Flesh makes a token creature, some card draw, land search, Lines of Arms, card that lets people make token creatures, Cobra Trap, token creatures, just removal spell, destroy a creature, make a token creature, Foot Bottom Feast. I find Foot Bottom Feast actually kind of interesting. It's originally from Lorwyn, I believe. 2 colors and a black, instant. Take any number of creature cards from your graveyard, put them on top of your library, draw a card. What I think is really kind of interesting about that is that was originally in Mirage or Visions. I can't remember which, and it was called Bone Harvest. Not be confused with Bone Saw. Ooh, yeah. You know, it's actually, you know, when I first saw that Spider-Man, it took me a few minutes to, like, I'm sitting there looking at Bonesaw, I'm like, is that Randy Savage? I'm like, nah, it looks too big to be Randy Savage. Well, he could have been working out more and taking more roids, but I'm not sure if that's his voice or not. You know, haven't heard him in a long time, so it's a little hard to pay. Then I saw him count to 3 starting on the pinky, and I'm like, yeah, that's Randy Savage. No one else does that. Oh well. You know, removal, enchantment control stuff. Yeah. O-ring. Oh yeah. Necrogenesis, which I find interesting. It's a variation on Night Soil from Fallen Empires. It's actually a little bit more efficient at it, but requires 2 colors. Fists of Ironwood give a dude trample and token creatures. Acorn Catapult. Yeah, it's 1 colorless. It's 4 colorless artifact, 1 colorless, and tap it for 1 damage to our creature or player. That creature's controller or that player puts a 1/1 green squirrel token onto the battlefield, and it's like, yep, it's squirrels. Each of the decks has a Lightning Greaves and a Sol Ring. Sol Ring is nice. I mean, seriously. Sol Ring's just a great card. Now, here's the great thing. In this deck here, in the Counterpunch deck, you got a deck that's all built around token creatures. The Skull Clamp in it! Seriously, guys? A Mother-Eating Skull Clamp? What's wrong with you? And granted, it's a great choice for the deck, don't get me wrong. Now, of course, we got stuff like, you know, Sigil Captain, and when you have a huge Sigil Captain is a Kulsa green double white 3/3. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control, if that creature's 1/1, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. With the number of 1/1 creatures, especially token creatures, you can generate out of this deck, you're going to have a whole bunch load of token creatures with +1/+1 counters on them. That's screwed up. Vampire Nighthawk. Oh, so good. You got a Nantuko Husk. He's a fun, happy sacrifice engine. Celestia Guildmage makes token dudes, beefs your guys. Golgari Guildmage, sacrifice creature to get a creature card from your graveyard to hand. Makes puts +1/+1 counters on guys. Celestia Evangel makes token dudes. Oh, there's such redonkulous stuff going on in this deck. It looks interesting. Oops. So far, the only one of these decks that I've seen in action has been the Heavily Inferno. It's fast and aggressive because Kalia is, you power out, you can get her out on turn 4 to 5 relatively easy, and then you start turning her sideways and simultaneously dropping in angels, demons, and dragons, and hammering the crap out of people. As an obscure side note, one thing we saw that we had to mention to the kid who was playing a young man by the name of Dan, who's a good kid at the FLGS drafting a lot, is that when you use Kalia the Vast to put a Serra Angel on the board, the fact that the Serra Angel has Vigilance is arbitrary. She's still tapped, because that's what Kalia says to do with it. Ain't that funky? Ain't that funky? You got Mother of Runes in here. You've got all sorts of fun stuff in here. But what I found really, really interesting about this deck, really interesting about it, is it seems I got one that was kind of screwed up because, like I said, when I opened these up, the first thing I do is I go to the back and start looking at the lands. And, hey, why are the lands upside down in regards to the other cards? So I go in, look around, and at some point the cards do relatively into the back. The cards turn right side back up again, and bam, that's where it happens. So I turn around and I look at it, and this one's got an error because I got 2 Sulphurous Blasts. I'm not going to complain. It basically seemed I got an extra card. I'm not going to complain, Oops. Call that an error at the packaging plant or something and be done with it. Hey. So, there's the commander decks. They all look pretty nice. They all look pretty interesting. If you get them and you disassemble them, you can make some really nice stuff. Cross-pollinating cards between the decks, as I've mentioned, especially with Political Puppets and Mirror Mastery. Yeah. I know that right now they're hard to find. Depending upon where you are, the big box stores, your Walmarts, your Targets, places like that, are going to be selling them at manufacturer suggested retail price of $30. $29.99 plus tax. Whatever, right? There are a lot of specialty retailers, game stores, places like that, who will take the MSRP and throw that straight to the wind. I've heard that Political Puppets is going for $60 at some game shops. The price gouging that some of these guys are doing will probably come to an end when more of these sets get printed. I've heard that a second printing is in the works, which is a good thing in my opinion. I think Wizards kind of underestimated demand on these a tiny bit. On the other hand, I've heard that in some areas the big box retailers have more than know what to do with. Maybe gamers just don't realize that you can get them there. I don't know. But yeah, you've got some good stuff going on here. Some reprints of some funky old stuff, some new cards. There's all sorts of craziness going on here. Another thing, I like the fact that they all come with a deck box. That's really nice. The gigantic foiled commander cards are a nice little promo item. What I've seen at least one person get in the habit of doing is they'll just take their commander out of the small commander card out of the deck entirely, put it aside, and just keep the big one off to the side, because a lot of people are really prone to accidentally shuffling their commander back into the deck at the end of a game. And, until you get used to it, yeah, you're going to do that a lot. But, yeah, you got some good stuff going on here, and I like the product. It looks nice. I'd love to see a second round of the product as well. Not just another printing, but a second round of it where it's just 5 decks of 3 allied colors. Maybe use the Invasion legendary dragons. Darigaz the Igniter, and Trevor the Renewer, and Rith the Awakener, etc., etc., etc. You know. I mean, these are really nice. I like them. Good stuff. I think I've been saying that over and over at this point. Geez, wow. I mean, if you can get them for MSRP, I highly recommend it. If you can't, yeah, I hate to say this, but if you can't get them at MSRP, pass on them. Just don't refuse to buy them at those prices, people. If gamers refuse to pay those prices for the cards, the retailers will bring the prices down because they want to move their merchandise. Now, if they were crazy retailers and they say, oh yeah, well, a lot of places are getting like $60 plus for some of these decks, and they went off to the big box stores and they paid 30 plus tax for each one and cleaned out the big box store, and then went back to their shop and jacked up threw them on the shelves and jacked up the price. Yeah, they're not going to sell them for MSRP, and I can't really blame them for doing that. But seriously, I will not recommend to anyone paying more than MSRP for these. Not because I don't think they're worth it. I think, you could, if you can get them for like $40 or less, it's still a good deal. But if someone's going to try and price gouge you on these things and charge you twice MSRP or more, manufacturer suggested retail price, if someone's going to try and charge you twice MSRP or more for these, just turn to them and say, you know what? I'll get it somewhere else that isn't going to price gouge me. And be done with it. I mean, I think it's really crappy that places would do that. But you know what? There's a lot of buzz on these things. I can understand why they do it. And hey, I'm not going to begrudge people making money. But there comes a point where you just look and say, dude, you're ripping people off. That's not cool. Making money is cool. Ripping people off to do it is not. That's just my opinion, I guess. I don't know. Alrighty. Well, I'm going to wrap this lovely little video up. Oh, hey, battery on this thing needs to be charged again. Yay. Have a good one, fellas. Be safe. And Monday's video, I'm going to see where the heck I stand on sorting through all this stuff. Well, the rest of my Magic card collection. I should probably see about getting some of this excess cards I've been tossing off to the side. Put away somewhere too, Alright, be good, fellas.